My name is Lauren Hayes. I'm 38 years old, and if you're watching this, please like and subscribe, because what I'm about to share isn't just my story. It's a lesson about never underestimating the person you break. I still remember that night like it was yesterday, the night Ethan Pierce humiliated me in front of everyone. It was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. We'd been dating for almost 2 years, and I thought he was going to propose. Instead, he laughed. We were at the Mercer Kitchen in Soho, surrounded by the hum of expensive laughter and the clinking of wine glasses. I was nervous, fidgeting with the edge of my red dress, the one he'd once said made me look like a walking Valentine's ad. He looked at me with that half smirk, the kind that could charm anyone but always carried an edge of cruelty. "Lauren," he said, swirling his wine, "do you ever think maybe we've outgrown each other?" I frowned. Outgrown each other? What do you mean? He leaned back in his chair. I mean, you've changed. You're not the same girl I met. You've put on weight. You're comfortable. Too comfortable. The words hit like glass, shattering inside my chest. People at nearby tables glanced our way. He didn't lower his voice. He didn't care. "Ethan, that's not fair," I whispered. "We've both been busy." He laughed, that cruel, sharp laugh that made me want to sink through the floor. Busy? Or just lazy? Look at yourself, Lauren. You're not exactly CEO material anymore. That last part stung harder than anything. He knew how much I dreamed of that, of climbing to the top of my marketing firm, of proving myself in a city that eats the weak alive. But in that moment, he took all my dreams, all my love, and turned them into a punchline. Then, right there, in front of the waiter and a table of strangers, he dumped me. When I walked out of that restaurant, my mascara streaked. My heart felt like it had been scraped raw. I swore I'd never let a man, or anyone, make me feel that small again. The next months were a blur of pain and rage. I quit my job at Stonebridge Marketing, the firm where Ethan and I had met. I packed up my tiny Brooklyn apartment and moved into a cramped studio in Queens. Every morning, I dragged myself out of bed before sunrise and ran along the East River. It wasn't about losing weight. It was about reclaiming control. Sweat, tears, late nights, they became my therapy. I started freelancing. Small clients at first, local bakeries and boutique stores. But then, my campaigns began going viral. A bakery doubled its sales after my rebrand. A small skincare line got picked up by a national chain. My reputation grew, and so did my confidence. By the time I hit 36, I had founded Hayes Creative Group, a digital marketing agency based in Midtown Manhattan. It started in a co-working space, just me and a laptop. And within 2 years, I had 40 employees, major clients, and an office overlooking Madison Avenue. Still, late at night, I'd think about Ethan. His smirk, his words, his laughter. He'd been right about one thing. I wasn't the same woman he met. I was stronger, sharper, harder. And I thought I'd buried the past, until the day he walked into my office. It was a rainy Tuesday morning in April. The city outside was a blur of umbrellas and honking taxis. My assistant, Claire, buzzed me over the intercom. "Lauren, there's a candidate here for the open marketing director position. He says you might know him." I was halfway through reviewing a pitch deck when I glanced at the resume she'd forwarded. My pen froze mid-air. Name, Ethan Pierce. For a full minute, I just stared. My chest went cold. "Send him in," I said quietly. When he walked through the glass door, time folded in on itself. He looked older, a little grayer at the temples, still handsome, but worn down. His suit wasn't tailored anymore, and there was a tiredness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He didn't recognize me at first. He smiled politely, that same fake charm he used on clients. Then his eyes flickered, and the color drained from his face. "Lauren?" he breathed. I smiled, slow, measured. "Mr. Pierce, please, have a seat." He swallowed hard, trying to recover. "Wow, it's been a while. You look incredible." "Thank you," I said, folding my hands on the desk. So you're applying for the marketing director role? He nodded, visibly uncomfortable. Yeah, I was with Bright Edge for a few years, but they downsized after the merger. I guess the market's been rough. I leaned back, studying him. The man who once told me I wasn't CEO material, now sitting across from me, desperate for a job. I see, I said softly. Tell me, Ethan, what makes you think you'd be a good fit for my company? He blinked, realization hitting him like thunder. Your company? I smiled again, calm and composed, though my heart pounded like a drum. Yes, Hayes Creative Group. I'm the CEO. He just stared at me, the same man who'd once mocked my dreams, now speechless, his pride crumbling right in front of me. And in that silence, I felt something unexpected, not triumph, but the slow rising warmth of something darker, power. But I wasn't done yet. I don't think I'll ever forget the look on his face, that flicker of disbelief, followed by the dawning realization that his fate was now sitting across from him in a black blazer and calm smile. The same woman he once mocked for being too soft was now the one holding the pen that could decide his career. He cleared his throat and tried to smile, but his confidence had cracks in it now. Wow, I had no idea. You've really made it, huh? I tilted my head slightly, pretending to be curious instead of furious. Yes, Ethan. Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? He gave a nervous laugh. Yeah, I guess it does. The silence that followed stretched like elastic. I wanted him to feel it. The awkwardness, the imbalance, the quiet reminder that the tables had turned. So, I began, scanning his resume. It says here you were laid off from Bright Edge last year. Yeah, he said quickly. Budget cuts. I was the senior account lead there for almost 4 years. I flipped to the next page without looking up. And before that, Stonebridge Marketing, same company where we met. His Adam's apple bobbed. Right. Yeah. I smiled faintly. You were doing well there, if I remember correctly. He nodded. I was. But after you left, things kind of went downhill. Management changed, clients left, and I guess I lost my rhythm. I could hear the discomfort in his voice, the tiny quiver that betrayed how much this situation unnerved him. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I leaned forward. Tell me, Ethan, what would you say is your biggest weakness? He blinked, caught off guard. I guess I can be a little too straightforward sometimes. I arched a brow. You mean blunt? He chuckled awkwardly. Yeah, I guess. I've always believed in honesty. The irony almost made me laugh. Honesty. That's what he called it when he looked me in the eye years ago and said I was no longer attractive enough to stand beside him. I nodded slowly. Honesty is good, but sometimes it's not about what you say, Ethan. It's about how you say it, and who you say it to. He swallowed hard. Yeah, I've learned that the hard way. I looked up, finally meeting his eyes. There it was. Guilt, regret, maybe even shame. Have you? I asked softly. His gaze dropped to the floor. Lauren, I know we didn't end on good terms, and if I ever hurt you, I'm sorry. I was young and stupid. You didn't deserve that. There it was, the apology I once cried for, begged for, waited for. But now, it felt empty. Too late. Still, I gave him a polite nod. Thank you for saying that. The professional tone in my voice must have stung because he shifted in his seat like he expected more. Forgiveness, warmth, closure. But all I had for him now was distance. After another pause, I stood up and said, That'll be all for now. HR will reach out to you about the next steps. He rose to his feet, looking both relieved and unsure. Lauren, listen. Regardless of what happens, I'm genuinely proud of you. You've done amazing things. Thank you, Ethan, I said, extending my hand. We'll be in touch. He shook it, his grip still strong, but his confidence gone. When he left my office, the rain outside had stopped, and I caught his reflection in the glass as he walked away, smaller somehow, like a man carrying invisible weight. That night, I sat alone in my penthouse apartment, staring at the city lights below. The sound of traffic drifted up like distant music. Part of me wanted to just forget about him, to take the moral high ground and move on. But another part of me, the part that remembered standing outside the Mercer kitchen crying in the rain, wanted him to feel what he made me feel, to feel powerless, unworthy, disposable. I stared at the message after hitting send. My reflection in the window looked different now, sharper, colder. Maybe I wasn't the same woman he left behind, but maybe that was the problem, because for the first time in my life, I understood the temptation of revenge, the quiet satisfaction of control. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. 2 weeks later, Ethan Pierce walked back into Hayes Creative Group, this time as an employee. I greeted him with the same polite professionalism I gave all my staff. But inside, my heart was pounding, not with anger anymore, but with anticipation. He thought the past was behind us. He thought he was getting a second chance. But what he didn't know was that this was where the real story began. When Ethan started working at Hayes Creative Group, I told myself it was purely professional, that I hired him because of his resume, not because of the satisfaction curling quietly in my chest. But that was a lie. From the moment he walked into our glass-walled office on Madison Avenue, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit, and carrying the weight of a man who'd fallen from grace, I knew exactly what I was doing. He was assigned to the Barton Cosmetics account, one of our most demanding clients. I told my team he had years of experience with high-end campaigns, and technically, that was true. But what I didn't mention was that Barton was notorious for being impossible to please. It was the perfect test. "Morning, Ethan," I said one Tuesday as he stood by the espresso machine, fumbling with the settings. He turned, startled, spilling a little coffee on his sleeve. "Oh, Lauren, morning." "You can call me Ms. Hayes at work," I said evenly. "We like to keep things professional here." He nodded quickly. "Of course. Sorry." The small flush in his cheeks told me everything. He wasn't used to being beneath me, not like this. Later that day, during a strategy meeting, I watched him struggle to present his campaign pitch to Barton's marketing director. His ideas weren't bad, but his confidence had cracks in it. His voice too hesitant, his body language defensive. When the client rejected the proposal, he looked to me for backup, but I said nothing. I just watched. After the call ended, the room went quiet. My team exchanged awkward glances. Ethan cleared his throat. "I think if we adjust the copy, we can—" I cut him off gently. "No. What we need is leadership. Someone who knows how to handle a tough client without falling apart." The silence that followed was heavy. He looked at me, stunned, and for a second, I saw it. The memory of how he once looked at me when he told me I wasn't CEO material. Now the words came back to him, and this time, I was the one saying them. Days turned into weeks. Ethan worked late, trying to prove himself, while I watched from behind my glass office door. I caught glimpses of him some nights, sitting alone under the cold blue light of his computer screen. He'd loosen his tie, rub his temples, and stare blankly at the monitor, like a man realizing he'd lost more than just a job years ago. Still, I couldn't look away. Part of me wanted to crush him, to let him drown in the humiliation he once threw at me. But another part still remembered the warmth of his laugh, the way he used to trace patterns on my hand while we lay in bed, dreaming about the future. One night around 9 p.m., I found him still at his desk. The office was quiet, the city humming outside. "Ethan," I said softly, walking up behind him, "you should go home." He looked up, startled. "Just trying to finish the Barton revisions." I sighed. "You're burning yourself out." He gave a small smile. "Yeah, well, it's hard to relax when your boss is you." That line caught me off guard. There was no arrogance in it, just a sad kind of honesty. I crossed my arms. "Meaning what?" "Meaning," he said quietly, "I used to think I knew what success looked like. Now I sit here watching you run this company, calm, confident, respected, And I realized I didn't know a damn thing. He looked down at his hands. You were always the one who believed in people. I just never believed enough in you. For the first time in a long time, I didn't know what to say. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Lauren, he said, his tone breaking slightly. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I was cruel. I was shallow, and I've regretted it every day since. My throat tightened. For years, I'd imagined this moment, him apologizing, humbled, broken, but standing there, hearing it for real. It didn't bring the satisfaction I expected. It brought confusion, because forgiveness wasn't part of the plan. The next morning, my assistant Claire walked in holding a report. Hey boss, got the quarterly metrics. Barton's numbers just spiked 12%. Looks like Ethan's new ad direction worked. I blinked. His direction? She nodded. Yeah, he tweaked the campaign overnight, said he wanted to try something different. It's going viral. I opened the dashboard, and there it was. The engagement metrics were exploding. Ethan had done it. He'd saved the account. That afternoon, Barton's CEO called to praise him personally, and I felt something unexpected. Pride. Not the kind that comes from control or victory, but the kind that comes from watching someone rise again. That night, as I stood by my office window watching the city lights blur against the glass, I whispered to myself, "What are you doing, Lauren?" Revenge had felt intoxicating at first, clean, righteous, but now it was messy, emotional, real. Because the man I wanted to destroy wasn't the same man sitting in my office anymore, and as much as I hated to admit it, maybe I wasn't the same woman either. The next morning, an email hit my inbox. Subject, lunch, from Ethan Pierce. All it said was, no agenda, just two old colleagues. There's something I need to tell you. I stared at the message for a long time. My heart said no. My curiosity said yes. Finally, I typed a single line in response. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., the Mercer Kitchen. The same place where he once destroyed me. Only this time, I'd be the one holding the power. The Mercer Kitchen hadn't changed. The same soft amber lights. The same jazz hum beneath the clatter of cutlery. The same scent of truffle oil drifting through the air. But I had changed. As I stood at the entrance, wearing a fitted black dress and heels that clicked with confidence, I felt like I was walking through a memory. Except this time, I wasn't the woman being broken. I was the one who'd rebuilt herself from the ashes. The hostess led me to the back corner booth, the same one where Ethan had once ended everything. And there he was, already seated, looking up with that familiar mix of nervousness and regret. Lauren, he said softly as I approached, standing halfway before sitting back down. You look incredible. I smiled. Not to flirt, not to forgive, but to show him what strength looks like when it no longer needs validation. Thank you, I said calmly, taking my seat. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The waiter came by, poured water, disappeared again. The air between us felt charged. Not romantic, not angry, just unfinished. Finally, I broke the silence. So, what did you need to tell me? He exhaled slowly, his hands clasped together on the table. I asked you here because I needed to say this in person. I owe you that much. I leaned back, arms folded, expression unreadable. When I saw you again, he continued, I realized how much I'd destroyed, not just what we had, but who I was back then. I was arrogant. I thought success was about image, about being seen with the right kind of woman. And you... He stopped, his voice faltering. I raised an eyebrow. And me? You were everything real, he said quietly. Smart, kind, ambitious. But I was too shallow to see it. When I said those awful things that night, it wasn't about you, it was about me, about how small I felt inside. I stared at him, emotions warring beneath the surface. Anger, pity, disbelief, and something deeper I didn't want to name. He went on. After you left Stonebridge, everything fell apart. I lost clients, got demoted, and eventually got laid off. I kept chasing something that didn't exist, until I had nothing left to chase. And then I saw you again, sitting behind that desk, owning that company. You were everything I once mocked you for wanting to be. He looked up at me, eyes glistening with sincerity. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. You won. You really did. His words hung in the air like a confession. I took a sip of water, studying him. The once cocky man who'd laughed at me in this very room now looked fragile, human. Ethan, I said finally, my voice low and even. I didn't build my company to win against you. I built it because I had to. Because if I didn't, I would have drowned in what you left behind. He nodded, eyes fixed on the table. I know. You shattered me, I continued, my tone trembling slightly. You made me believe I wasn't enough, not pretty enough, not driven enough, not worthy enough. I spent years trying to erase the sound of your laughter that night. He looked up, guilt etched across his face. And when you walked into my office that day, I said, I thought I wanted revenge. I thought I wanted you to hurt like I did. But now, I paused, feeling the tightness in my chest ease just slightly. Now I realized what I wanted wasn't revenge. I just wanted you to see me. He swallowed hard. I see you, Lauren. I really do. We sat there in silence for a long moment. Two people bound by a past that had finally run its course. When the waiter came to take our order, I shook my head. I'm not staying, I said, standing up. Ethan rose too, his expression confused. You're leaving? Yes, I said quietly. Because this is where my story ends, not with revenge, but with release. I reached into my purse, pulled out a folded note, and set it on the table. He looked at it but didn't touch it. It's a recommendation letter, I said, for the marketing position at Bright Edge's new branch. You're good at what you do, Ethan. You just need to remember who you are and who you hurt to get there. His eyes widened. Lauren, I don't deserve this. I smiled faintly. Maybe not, but I do. I deserve peace. For a second, he just stared at me, emotion flickering in his eyes. Shame, gratitude, something like redemption. As I turned to leave, he said softly, You're still the strongest person I've ever known. I looked back at him one last time, the ghost of my past sitting under those soft amber lights. Not strong, Ethan, I said, just done. Outside, the evening air hit my face, cool, crisp, cleansing. The city lights shimmered like 1,000 tiny promises, and for the first time in years, I felt free. I walked down Spring Street, heels clicking against the pavement, each step lighter than the last, and as the night wind whispered around me, I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who cried outside this same restaurant years ago, and I smiled, because she wasn't gone. She had just evolved. She had turned pain into power, heartbreak into purpose, and that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all.